Before you sleep in any hotel, ask yourself one question: do you really know who owns it? He was just a man trying to feed his family. Came to town for a job interview, booked a cheap hotel, called his wife, smiled, slept peacefully, but he never made it to that interview. He never came back home. Because that hotel was run by a widow, and she was a killer. At the edge of lakeside town, just before a narrow, quiet road led into the bushy path, there stood a small hotel painted brown and cream. It had only 10 rooms. Nobody ever called it beautiful. It was basic, cheap, and quiet. People only lodged there because it was affordable, especially those who didn't plan to stay long. It was called Sunlight Guest House. The owner was a woman called Mama Grace, a widow in her early 60s. Her hair was always tied in black scarves, and she wore large, dull gowns that made her look harmless. But there was nothing harmless about her. Nobody in Lakeside Town really knew who she was or where she came from. People only whispered that her husband had died mysteriously years ago, and since then, she had run the hotel alone with her son Kenny. Kenny was in his early 30s. He looked calm in public, soft-spoken, always smiling, but anyone who crossed his path in private would see his true face. He was as evil and cold as his mother, maybe worse. They had a secret, a dark, bloody secret. The hotel was a slaughterhouse. Not every guest was a victim. Only the unlucky ones, those who were alone, had no family nearby, or were desperate enough to lodge in such a cheap place. They were chosen carefully, lured, watched, and when the time was right, sacrificed. The blood fed the spirits Mama Grace served. The pieces were used for rituals, wealth, protection, long life. Some parts were buried. Some were sold. Others were taken far away in the back of a van by Kenny. No trace. No story. They thought they were too clever to be caught. Until one day, a stranger comes to town. Michael James was a man of hope. He had a small family, a beautiful wife, Linda, and 2 lovely kids, Sammy and Tina. They lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a crowded city. Things weren't perfect, but there was love in their home. The kind of love money can't buy. Michael was a struggling father, working odd jobs and chasing interviews. When he finally got a message inviting him for a job interview in Lakeside Town, he was overjoyed. That job could change everything. He told Linda. She prayed with him. She packed his small bag and put food inside. Their kids hugged him tightly before he left. "Daddy, bring us meat pie," little Tina shouted. Michael laughed. "I'll bring you meat pie and chicken if I get the job." It was late evening when Michael arrived in Lakeside. His friend, Tony, who also got invited to the same interview, had already booked a room at a decent hotel in the center of town. But Michael, always trying to save money, found a cheaper option, Sunlight Guest House. He entered the guest house. The lights were dim. The air was heavy. A quiet boy at the front desk gave him a key and pointed him to room 4. Inside, Michael settled down. He took a quick bath, wore a clean shirt, and sat on the bed with his phone. Michael video called his wife. "Sweetheart," he smiled. "I'm here." "Thank God," Linda smiled back, her kids waving in the background. "How was the journey?" "Stressful, but I'm okay. The hotel is small, but I'll manage." He turned the camera around, showing her the room. "Look, the bed is fine. See the menu too. They even sell rice and pepper soup." Linda laughed. "Just sleep well and do well tomorrow. I'm so proud of you." "I love you," Michael said. "I love you too," she replied. "Good night." That would be the last time she ever saw her husband. It was around 1 a.m. when room 4 opened slowly with a master key. Michael didn't wake up immediately. But when he did, it was because of the sharp pain in his ribs. Someone had kicked him hard. He opened his eyes to see 4 masked men, one of them holding a machete. Another held a camera. Kenny stood in the corner, grinning like a demon. Michael screamed. They beat him hard, fast, and without mercy. They broke his jaw so he wouldn't scream. They tied his hands and legs. Mama Grace came in wearing red wrappers, chanting under her breath. Her eyes rolled. She sprinkled dark powder on his face. Then Kenny raised the blade. And just like that, Michael was gone. His body was cut into parts, wrapped in black nylons, and packed into a big box. Kenny carried it to the hotel's back gate where a van was already waiting. He drove off into the night. By morning there was nothing left in room 4. His name was wiped from the guest record. The sect was cleared. The bed was made. The blood was cleaned. The room looked like no one had ever slept there. Mama Grace gathered her staff, 3 of them, 2 cleaners and the young boy at the front desk. She made them kneel. Then she brought out a small calabash. "Swear you saw nothing," she said. "Swear by your blood." They swore. Out of fear, she told them if they ever spoke, Ethel, the spirit of the hotel, would drag them to hell. They believed her. Morning came. Linda woke up and called her children. They knelt and prayed. Then she picked her phone and typed a message to her husband. "Good morning, beloved. I hope you had an amazing night. I wish you success in your interview today. I pray everything works out in your favor. I love you and can't wait to see you. Kisses." She smiled as she sent it. Then she dressed the children, took them to school, and opened her small second-hand clothes shop. But time passed quickly. By 2 p.m., she had not heard from Michael. She tried calling him. The line didn't connect. "Switched off," the voice said. She tried again, and again. Panic started to rise. She called his friend, Tony. "Did you see Michael at the interview?" she asked. Tony sounded surprised. "No, he didn't come. I was worried too. I called him this morning, but his line didn't go through." Linda's heart dropped. "But he was there," she whispered. "He showed me the room. He showed me the menu. Sunlight Guest House." She searched for the hotel online and found the number. A receptionist picked. "Good afternoon," Linda said. "Please, my husband, Michael James, lodged in your hotel yesterday." "I'm sorry, Ma," the receptionist said quickly. "We don't have any guest by that name." "But that's not possible. He showed me the room on video call." "Even your menu, he showed me the menu." "I'm sorry, Ma. No such guest. Goodbye." Linda tried again. This time, Mama Grace picked the call herself. "Madam, I don't know who your husband is," she said calmly. "Maybe you're mistaking the hotel name. We don't have any guest like that." She dropped the phone again. Linda froze. Something wasn't right. Her husband would never lie to her. He was there. She saw it. Something terrible had happened. She put on her slippers and took a bus to the neighboring town. Immediately she got there, she marched to the police station. "Officer, I want to report a missing person." "My husband. I think something bad has happened. And I think it has to do with a place called Sunlight Guest House." The officer at the desk was named Sergeant Benson, a man in his early 40s with thick sideburns and a tired look. But he looked at her and asked her to repeat herself again. "My husband is missing. His name is Michael James. He came to this town yesterday for an interview. He called me last night, showed me the hotel room. The food menu had the name of the Hotel Sunlight Guest House. But today, they are telling me he was never there. Please, I know what I saw. Something is wrong." Benson frowned. "And he hasn't contacted you since last night?" "No, nothing. Not even a text." "All right, we'll look into it." He called 2 younger officers, Corporal Musa and Officer Chucks, and asked them to follow him. They wore plain clothes, grabbed a notepad and a camera, and told Linda to come along as they drove to the guest house. Mama Grace was outside, watering the flowers in front of the guest house when the police van parked by the side. She didn't look surprised. "Good afternoon, officers," she said with a soft smile. Sergeant Benson stepped forward. "Good afternoon. We received a report. A man named Michael James reportedly lodged here yesterday, but has not been seen since. His wife says she saw this hotel on video call, including the menu." Mama Grace's eyes narrowed slightly. "I told her already. No such guest stayed here. Can we see your guest record?" She nodded and walked inside, returning with a freshly written logbook. It had only 5 names for yesterday, all false, all fake. Michael's name was not there. Linda burst into tears. "He showed me this room. I saw that curtain. I saw that bed frame. He was here." But Mama Grace shook her head calmly. "Maybe he showed you a different place. Some hotels look alike." Sergeant Benson scanned the environment. Something didn't feel right. The air was heavy. Too quiet. Too rehearsed. "Can we see the exact footage?" he asked. Mama Grace paused, then said, "It's not working. We've had power problems. You can check the wires if you like." Officer Chuck stepped out to check the checked box. It had been wiped clean. Benson looked around again. Staff were quiet. Afraid, eyes darting like trapped animals. Then one of them, a young female cleaner named Ruth, looked up for a second too long. And in that second, Benson saw something: fear, guilt. That night, Ruth couldn't sleep. Her hands still smelled like the detergent she used to scrub the blood off the floor in room 4. She had done it quickly, before dawn. She had seen the man's broken glasses near the pillow. She had looked at his phone before Kenny took it and smashed it. Now the police had come, and the man's wife had cried, and Ruth's stomach twisted like snakes. She had sworn an oath, yes, but she hadn't killed anyone. All she did was clean. Still, the spirits Mama Grace served didn't care. If Ruth opened her mouth, they would come for her. That's what Mama Grace had said. But Ruth was not okay. That night, as she lay in bed in the tiny staff quarters behind the hotel, she whispered a prayer. "God, forgive me. I was only trying to feed myself. I didn't know they were killing people." And then she heard it. A knock, not on the door. Inside her room. She sat up quickly. The room was cold. Her blanket had fallen to the floor. And in the corner, something moved. A shadow, tall, familiar. And then a voice. "Healthy, tell her I was here," Ruth screamed. Elsewhere that same night, in her small bedroom back in the city, Linda finally cried herself to sleep. Her children were sleeping next to her. She had kept their father's shirt under their pillow, hoping it would bring comfort. But in her sleep she dreamed. The dream was strange. She was standing in a dark hallway. The doors were all closed. She walked forward, hearing soft whispers. Then one door opened, slowly. Inside she saw a man sitting on the edge of a bed. "Michael," she whispered. He looked up. His eyes were red. His body was covered in blood, but his face was calm. "Linda," he said. "Don't stop. I was there. Room 4. Sunlight Guest House. Trust your eyes." She woke up screaming. Her heart raced. The pillow was wet with tears. She knew it wasn't just a dream. He was trying to reach her. The following day, as the police prepared to write a report, an unexpected visitor came to the station. He was a man in his late 30s. His name was Elijah Thomas. He walked with a limp and had burn scars on one hand. He looked rough, like someone who had seen war. "I heard a man went missing at Sunlight Guest House," he said. Sergeant Benson looked up. "And who are you?" Elijah sat down. "I was one of their guests. 6 years ago." Benson's eyes widened. "What?" "They almost got me. Same way. I was drugged. I woke up half naked in the bush 3 miles away. I went to the police back then, but the report disappeared. Nobody believed me." Benson leaned forward. "Do you have proof?" Elijah raised his sleeve and showed a tattoo of room 4 he had burned into his arm after surviving. I swore I'd never forget the room they tried to kill me in. Then he pulled out an old, faded photo. It was of the food menu in the room. The same one Michael had shown Linda on video. Benson stood up immediately, the night after the police visited. The staff of Sunlight Guest House were unusually quiet. Even Kenny, the widow's son, who was always loud and boastful, kept to himself. The fear of exposure hung in the air like thick smoke. But no one was more unsettled than Ruth, the young cleaner. She had joined the hotel staff only 8 months ago. Back then, she was jobless, hungry, and desperate. Mama Grace had offered her a place to stay, food to eat, and a stable job. But she hadn't known that the job would come with blood on her hands. They told her it was just cleansing rituals and that the guests were chosen. But she had cleaned up after those rituals, and what she had seen were not spiritual sacrifices, they were murders. And now, that man, the one who had come in smiling and showing his wife the hotel room on video call, was gone forever. Ruth had scrubbed his blood off the wall. She had seen the broken glasses left on the bedside table before Kenny grabbed them and crushed them. That night, in her tiny room behind the kitchen, she sat on her bed and whispered, "God, please forgive me." A cold wind blew through the closed window. Then, a whisper. "Ruth, Ruth." She looked around, heart pounding. "Help me." She shot up from bed and ran out of the room barefoot, bumping into the cook in the hallway. "You dame mad!" The cook barked. I thought I heard something," Ruth stammered, shaking. She couldn't sleep again that night. The ghost of the man Michael James was now whispering her name. Back in her home, Linda wasn't eating. She hadn't bathed. The children were beginning to notice. Her heart felt as if it had stopped beating the night her husband vanished. Each morning, she still sent him a message, "Good morning, my love. Wherever you are, I know you can hear me. Please come home." Her messages never delivered. That night, after putting the kids to sleep, she fell into a restless nap. The moment her eyes shut, she found herself walking in a dimly lit hallway. The walls were cracked. The carpet smelled of blood. She turned a corner and entered a room. There, standing by the bed, was her husband. His face was pale. His shirt was torn. But his eyes were clear. "Linda," he said. She rushed to him, crying. "Where are you?" "What happened?" He held her shoulders and looked her in the eyes. "Room 4. I was there. The guest house. The name you saw was right. They killed me. But I need justice. I can't rest." Then he vanished. She woke up screaming. The next morning, Linda went back to the police station. She met Sergeant Benson again. They did it. He told me in my dream. "They killed him in room 4, she said, breathless. Benson, though experienced, had heard enough strange cases to know when something was real. At that moment, the station's front door opened. Elijah returned. "My name is Elijah Thomas," he said. "I know that guest house. I nearly died there 6 years ago." Linda was shocked. He continued. "I stayed in that same room. Room 4. I woke up tied to a chair. There were masked men, candles, and blood. I escaped through the window when the power went out. I reported it, but nothing was done." He showed her an old food menu. It was a blurry paper of a food menu Sunlight Guest House. Linda gasped. "That's the same menu my husband showed me on video call before he was killed." Benson sat up straight. This was no longer coincidence. It was time to act. That night, Ruth the cleaner couldn't bear the guilt anymore. She stayed back after cleaning and sneaked into the small office where the SectV system was located. The system had been wiped clean, but she knew something others didn't. She had secretly installed a tiny backup camera months ago, hidden behind a wall clock, to protect herself. It stored the last 48 hours on a USB stick. She took the stick and, after much hesitation, walked to the police station, hiding it inside a basket of oranges. When she reached the gate, she dropped the bag just outside and quickly walked away. Then a police officer carried it and brought it to Benson. Inside was the proof they needed. Benson called his team, Officer Chucks, Corporal Musa, and 2 detectives from the homicide unit. They reviewed the footage. Though grainy, it was horrifying. It showed masked men entering room 4. A man screams. The widow's son, Kenny, was seen clearly dragging a bloodied bag through the hallway. Mama Grace stood outside the room, chanting something dark. Ruth's face was also seen in the background, shaking, crying, cleaning up the blood. Benson sat back and whispered, "My God." The next day at 5 a.m., they prepared a raid. Police vans rolled up to Sunlight Guest House. They surrounded the compound silently. Inside, Mama Grace was already awake, her spiritual beads in hand. She looked up as the power went out. The spirits whispered, "They are here." Police burst in. Guests were removed and questioned. Rooms were searched. The kitchen, the backyard, and then room 4. There, the floorboards had been replaced, but blood residue was still in the cracks. In the store, they found an old suitcase containing men's wallets, ID cards, and even Michael's torn shirt. Kenny tried to run but was caught behind the fence. Mama Grace stood quietly, chanting under her breath. But when Benson tried to cuff her, she screamed, "You fools don't know what you've done. This land is cursed. You think you've saved them. You've only angered them." Then she laughed like thunder. Elijah, who had joined the team, pointed to a spot under the main office. "There used to be a door there," he said. With crowbars, the officers broke through the floor panel and found a hidden trapdoor. It led to a basement of horror. Inside were photos of victims, jars of human remains, spiritual symbols, a foul odor, and evidence of over 20 disappearances. One of the officers vomited. Linda, who had come along, fainted at the sight of her husband's glasses. The holding cell at Delia police station was damp and cold. The cement walls were cracked, and the smell of urine and sweat hung heavy in the air. Kenny, son of Mama Grace, sat hunched in the corner, his shirt torn, his dreadlocks dirty with dried blood. 3 other suspects' hotel staff occupied the cell, but no one sat close to Kenny. He had stopped talking since the raid. He only muttered to himself, sometimes laughed, and often scratched at invisible things on his skin. The officers thought it was shock until one night, at exactly 2 a.m., Kenny screamed and began barking like a dog. "Woof! Woof! Aha! You day bite me! Mama! Snake! Snake day my ear!" He rolled on the floor and slammed his head against the wall. A guard rushed in. "Kenny, what him be this?" Kenny grabbed his own throat. "Don't touch me. The woman in red day hold me. She say, make I confess." He started to chew on his own shirt, eyes rolling. They had to sedate him. But in the observation room, Sergeant Benson shook his head. "This boy thinks say he go escape like this. Na strategy, but we go break am." Ruth the cleaner was under protective custody, kept at a safe house owned by the force. Since the day she handed over the sect footage, she had received 3 anonymous threats on her small Nokia phone. "You break the oath. Death is coming." She tried to ignore them. But on the 4th night, she woke to find a red feather on her pillow, a symbol of betrayal used in their rituals. Terrified, she ran to the officer assigned to watch her. "Please," she begged, "let me speak with the pastor." She was taken to a local church, where Pastor Akin prayed for her. That night, Michael appeared to her in a dream. "Thank you for trying," he said, "but don't stop doing good." Then he also appeared to his wife Linda. "Darling, you must finish what you started. Under the staircase in room 4, you'll find something hidden." She woke gasping for breath. The next day, with special permission and escorted by officers, Linda returned to Sunlight Guest House. The place was now locked down. Yellow police tape lined the gate, and an eerie silence filled the compound. Led by Sergeant Benson and Elijah the survivor, they opened room 4 again. Linda paused in the doorway, remembering the video call. Her husband had stood right there, smiling at her. "Good night, baby." Tears fell. Elijah pushed aside the broken wardrobe and pointed to the wall beneath the stairs. They tore the drywall and found a wooden box. Inside was a book bound in leather, soaked with dried blood. On the front, it read the names of offering. They opened it. It listed over 30 names, dates, ages, ritual types, each with a signature symbol. Michael's name was the last, but beneath it was a blank page with a line titled, "Next to be taken," and beneath that, in shaky handwriting, Ruth. Meanwhile, Kenny was transferred to a psychiatric ward in a government hospital for observation. There, the staff noted strange behavior. He refused to eat normal food, demanding raw meat. He spoke in riddles. The heart is sweetest when still beating. Mama said the eyes of a father taste like honey. Psychiatrists debated if he had suffered a full psychotic break, but Benson wasn't fooled. He came with Linda and Elijah to question him. "Kenny, we know you're pretending. The spirits you called now want your soul too." Kenny began to hum a ritual chant. Linda slammed her hand on the table. "You killed my husband, and you will rot." Kenny snapped his head toward her. For a second, his eyes cleared. Then he whispered, "He still cries. In the basement, every night. But Mama will return, and all of you will join him soon." He laughed, loud and wild. Elijah leaned forward. "What happened 6 years ago when I escaped? You swore no one would survive again. But I did. And now I'm coming back." Kenny's laughter stopped. His hands trembled. He began screaming, "No, Mama. She'll kill me. I didn't fail. I didn't fail." Then he collapsed. The doctors dragged him back to his cell. Benson turned to Linda. "He's breaking." That night, something strange happened across Ocaja. A small fire broke out in the police evidence room. Ruth's safe house was nearly attacked. Only divine intervention stopped the assailant. A female officer working on the case fell into sudden coma with strange carvings appearing on her skin. Pastor Akin warned, the ritual was old and deep. Killing was part of it, but silence is part of the curse. Breaking it releases more than you can control. Mama Grace had not spoken since her arrest. She sat quietly in her private cell, a rosary of black beads in her hand. She fasted for 3 days. Then she whispered, "The spirits demand atonement." That same night, Michael's ghost appeared to Linda again. This time he was weeping. "They will keep killing until the book is burned. You must take it and destroy it." The next day, Elijah sat under a mango tree with Benson and Linda. Finally, he told them everything. "The night I escaped, I saw the 5th room. It wasn't numbered. They called it the chamber. That's where the altar is. I ran before they could brand me. That's why I'm alive, but not whole." He lifted his shirt. A burn scar shaped like an eye glowed faintly. "The widow branded me in my sleep. That's how she controls people. I felt it for years, her eyes watching." He looked at Linda. "She knows your face now. She knows your name. You must protect your children." The guest house stood under a heavy sky. Dark clouds loomed. Thunder rolled in the distance. A combined team of police officers, Pastor Akin, Ruth, Elijah, and Linda returned to the guest house for the last time. They were determined to cleanse it, burn the evil book, and uncover what lay inside the infamous Room 5, the Red Room. Pastor Akin poured holy oil around the entrance. As he began to pray, the temperature dropped. Ruth trembled. "This place is awake." Sergeant Benson forced the door open. The hinges shrieked. Inside, red candles, some half-burnt, others freshly lit, lined the walls. In the center stood a black altar shaped like a coffin, bloodstains dried into the stone. Linda gasped. This is where they brought him, my husband. Suddenly, the altar began to bleed. Blood seeped from its base. The candles flickered wildly. Pastor Akin shouted, "Hold the book over the altar." Ruth, with shaking hands, held out the book of offerings. "Spirits of pain, we release your chains. This curse ends now." He touched the book with his cross, and it burst into flames. The entire room shook. A loud scream echoed from beneath the floorboards. Back in the psychiatric hospital, Kenny was asleep when the altar burned. He woke with a scream so loud it cracked the glass window. "Nuwu." They touched the blood room. "Mama, Mama, I am sorry." He ran straight to a wall, splitting his head. But he laughed, didn't he? He laughed in it, going, "She's coming for me. She said I was her lion, but I'm just a rat." When the doctors ran brain scans, they found nothing wrong. Kenny had faked madness so long he had finally lost control. He was deemed fit to stand trial. The burning of the altar broke something deep inside Mama Grace. In her police cell, she cried for the first time. "She lied to me," she whispered. Detectives gathered around as she spoke slowly, painfully. "I only wanted protection, wealth, power. I thought if I gave the spirits what they wanted, they'd protect my family. But it was never enough." She looked at the female detective. "I made my son a monster." She confessed to every murder, every ritual, and the secret chamber under room 5. "There's a staircase hidden under the altar. That's where the bodies went." Sergeant Benson immediately sent a team. They broke through the altar floor and found 17 skeletons wrapped in black cloths. Each bore markings from different years. Justice had faces now. Ruth knelt before Michael's wife and wept. "I was a coward. I could have warned him. I could have stopped it." Linda embraced her. "It's all right, Ruth. You helped bring this down." With support from Pastor Akin, Ruth testified in court and handed over a hidden journal she had kept filled with names, dates, and secret meetings Mama Grace had with local officials and buyers of human body parts. It led to 4 arrests, including a corrupt pathologist and a fake pastor. Ruth was granted witness protection and started a new life in another city. The trial lasted 6 months. Mama Grace sat still the entire time, her eyes filled with tears. Kenny had to be chained during each session. The evidence was overwhelming: DNA of victims in the basement, the ritual book, Ruth's testimony, Michael's personal belongings, Elijah's survival and scar, and skipped footage from the night Michael died. The court declared guilty. The judge's gavel rang for multiple counts of premeditated murder, human dismemberment, conspiracy to traffic human body parts, and ritual practice. This court sentences you both to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Cries of relief filled the courtroom. Linda hugged and held her children close. The guest house was demolished by government order. The land was purified by spiritual leaders and turned into a memorial park for victims. On the first stone was carved, "To the voices that were silenced, we will always remember you." Michael's body was finally laid to rest in peace. During the burial, Linda stood by his grave with their children, placing white lilies. "You didn't die in vain, Michael. We found justice." That night, in a dream, Michael appeared one last time. No blood, no fear, just a smile. "My darling, thank you." Years passed and Linda now runs a foundation in her husband's name, helping victims' families and funding investigations into ritual crimes. Elijah, scarred but free, speaks to young people about the power of courage and spiritual discernment. Sergeant Benson was promoted to Dupo and awarded for excellence in criminal investigation. Pastor Akin's church grew as more people turned to God after the spiritual battle. And Ruth, under a new name, became a caregiver in an orphanage, finding peace by saving innocent lives. Where death once reigned, now stands a place of healing. Justice was slow, but it came. It always does. Greed for power and money can destroy generations. Mama Grace wanted protection and wealth, but it cost many innocent lives, including her own son's sanity. Secrets and silence protect evil. If Ruth had spoken earlier, so many lives could have been saved. Never be afraid to speak the truth, no matter the cost. Evil may hide for a while, but justice will always rise. The truth may take time, but it can never stay buried forever. A guilty conscience can never rest. No matter how long evil hides, it will always come back to haunt who commits it. The love of family is a powerful light in dark times. Michael's bond with his wife and children helped expose the darkness and led to justice being served. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this emotional and suspenseful African story, The Widow's Guest House. It was created with heart to remind us that even in the darkest times, truth, love, and justice will always prevail. Don't forget to like this video if you were moved by the story. Share with friends and loved ones who enjoy deep, thrilling stories with powerful lessons. Drop a comment, we'd love to hear your thoughts and what parts touched you most. Subscribe or follow us for more long, original African stories coming your way soon. Each tale is crafted to keep you entertained and thinking deeply. We remain Delia Storytime on all platforms. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and keep believing in justice. Bye for now.